the webinar format is a little bit different than the meeting, so it's a lot more about transmission. We got Bina. Bina has just joined us. Hello. The chat works for everyone, so if you want to share ideas and information in the chat, you can go ahead. And maybe while we get, we wait for people to come on in, because it's only 2:31 right now, why don't we do this? Why don't we get everyone to share within the chat one tip that they've learned about using Zoom in the past 2 days. So since we've been live, what is one thing that you've learned that makes running Zoom much, much, much smoother? Let's see, we got building in time for questions and answers. Yes, very, very important. Yeah, the lock feature is very, very powerful. Sabina says, I learned how to pop in on Classrooms. Unfortunately, the new lock feature makes it so we can't get in. Already reported to Danielle. So the lock feature, we had a bit of an issue, I think just because Zoom is still pretty novel and pretty new, where kids are sending the link to the Zoom meeting to other students who are not supposed to be in that class, and other students like popping in, like saying tee hee, tee hee. And so by locking the class, that means only the people that are in the Zoom meeting at that time can see it. Problem is like people like Bina or other students get locked out as well. So we got to look into that. Building in time, very specific times. The Wi-Fi fails at home. Jimena says that she's having Wi-Fi problems. Definitely. For me, I noticed it's like the start of every hour. So 1 p.m. today, I had to click about 3 times before I could get into my 1 p.m. meeting, just because I think everyone was either coming back from lunch or well, just coming back from lunch, and that was really, really slow. Glenda says, big step forward for me was using my iPad and mirroring the math that I was doing. That's really, really good. So Glenda's blazing a new trail and using her iPad to show the learning in her math class. It's really good. Okay, so we have a few more people joining us right now, so I think we might as well go ahead and get started. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen with everyone right now. I'm gonna go ahead and just share my Google Chrome screen. So that's one of the things that we can start by talking about is in Zoom, you have the option of, sharing your entire desktop, or you can choose just one window. So in this case, everything we're going to be doing is just in this one window, so there's no reason for me to share my entire desktop. So that goes back to protecting a little bit of that data privacy that we were talking about as we were rolling out Zoom. So I'm going to go ahead and start the presentation. Today we're talking about running an effective e-learning environment. And specifically what we're talking about is some of the tools that are built into Zoom and some of the basic methods that you can be employing to make your class a bit more of an effective e-learning environment. Okay. So the purpose is to explore the built-in tools in Zooms and methodologies to run an effective e-learning environment. If you want to take a screenshot of this little link right here, I could go ahead and, I can go ahead and drop this into the chat as well. Well, it's really, really touchy. I'm gonna go ahead and drop this into the chat as well so people can access this, but this is a link to a PDF that Zoom themselves put out. And it was a really good resource for teachers to use about Zoom. So this little PDF, I've just shared the link to it right there, and I can go ahead and upload the file to it as well. Oh, I don't have file uploading here. But this little link that I just shared will take you to basically some Zoom resources that have a ton of information about how you can effectively lead a Zoom learning environment. Okay, let me go ahead and close this. Go back to present mode. All right, so speaking of methodologies, one really good thing that I would encourage you to do is at the start of every session, have something like this slide, a daily agenda. I know many, many teachers are already doing this, but it's really handy to say, this is what we're gonna get to in today's lesson. So today we're gonna be talking about the general setup of your learning environment. Using the chat feature, the idea of chunking your content when you're teaching online, and the idea of getting physical. Because I don't know about you, but my back is killing me and it's only day 2. So anything we can do to bring a little bit of movement into our class, I think is going to be very, very good for our students and for ourselves as well. Okay, so general setup. Couple of things that I'd really recommend for you to do is, if possible, I'd encourage you to elevate your laptop. So try and bring your laptop up to about eye level, so you're avoiding this classic angle down here. So this angle right here is, the iPad, or pardon me, the laptop on the lap view of things. And it's just not quite as conducive to having an effective webinar, mainly because you cannot look directly into the camera. And that's the second thing that we want to bring up is if you're trying to emphasize a point, or you really want to drive home an idea in the classroom, it's really important that you avoid looking at the little film strip with all people's pictures, and you avoid looking at your slide that has all the content, and you speak directly into the webcam. That helps give that illusion of kind of connection, or human connection that we need in order to build understanding with our students. The other thing that we talk about is having control. So when you are giving a webinar, we really recommend that you have a plan of what you are going to do and how you're going to manage your webinar. So just like right now, it's really important that you can manage all of those microphones in the classroom, that you can know how to control cameras and things like that. We've had reports, like I've mentioned, of kids coming into time, maybe to answer some questions, or to really get their minds around some of the things we're talking about. And so we need to be okay in an e-learning environment to have a little bit of space and a little bit of time for people to digest. Oh, all right, looks like it's back. See, this is the thing, we need to learn how to manage. So I was just going over the general setup about the idea of like having your laptop at an appropriate height, maintaining eye contact, and now we're just talking about control. The third thing we talked about is no data leaks. So the idea of not sharing your entire life with these students once you start doing your webinars with them. And when you go to share your screen, you have the option of sharing your entire desktop or just sharing one Chrome window. And I think for a lot of teachers, just sharing one Chrome window is probably going to be a much, much safer bet. And finally, understand the Zoom features. I had a tweet that I shared, I sent out this morning, and it's one that I'd like to share with everyone right now. If you're a teacher using Zoom US, commit this one to memory. And I would like you to try and remember this right now. It's Command Control M. So in a meeting, what Command Control M does is it automatically mutes everyone except yourself. And it's a really fast way to gain control of that class if you need to really, really quickly. Because, you know, in the moment, it can be hard to remember to click on Manage Participants and to find that mute all button and things like this. So learning a little bit of keyboard shortcuts is going to make your life much, much, much easier. All right, just in the chat right now, does anyone know any other keyboard shortcuts or any other quick workarounds that they've been using in Zoom? I'm going to give you a minute to think about it, or maybe if you even want to do a quick Google search, you're welcome to do that. But what are some of the other keyboard shortcuts that you've been using to manage your Zoom meetings? Yeah, Sean says that it's possible to mute everyone upon entry, so that could be a setting. But as you go through and you mute people and you give people more access, maybe you want to quickly revoke it away again. So that's why it's good to commit that one to memory. I think inside of the document tips and tricks for teachers, I think there's some links here that has additional resources for keyboard shortcuts. Hey, Clement says, with 42 kids in the class, that will help a lot. Yeah, it's a good one to keep handy just so you can really quickly, like I said, control that environment in a really fast and efficient way. Yeah, you want the link to, I think I already did post it, but that's the link again to the resource page that we're looking with. Let's see, is there keyboard shortcuts on here? Nonverbal feedback, virtual background, annotations, etc. All right, Javier. Shift Command S to stop or start or stop screen sharing. Very, very handy. So same kind of pattern as the one that I put up in my tweet, but Shift Command S to start or stop your screen share. So let's say hypothetically, something came up and you realize, oh no, I need to stop sharing my screen. That could be a really, really quick way to get at to. You do have a big red stop button right in the middle of your screen as well. Okay. Let's move on to the next part, and it's using the chat. So actually built into Zoom is this really efficient chat tool that we're playing with right now and that I've seen a lot of administrators use in their morning meetings. And it's a great way to kind of get feedback from kids. So just like it's a back channel for us to share ideas and to give feedback to one another, it's also a really good way to kind of check in on the learning in your class. So you could think of it almost as like a formative assessment type tool. But the one thing that we'd really recommend you do is be specific with it. So rather than just saying like, tell me one thing you remember about yesterday's class, try and use it for very, very specific questions. That's going to give you much better results. And you can also use it to gauge the mood of your kids. So rather than having them, rate themselves on a 1 to 5 about how they're feeling today, it can be a good way to kind of get a sense of what your students are feeling like. So why don't we do that right now? Could I get everyone in the chat to share one word with how they're feeling about the e-learning situation on day 2? So I'll type that in myself as well. So please share one word how you are feeling with e-learning on day 2. Better than day 1. Proud, Vina Shaw, wonderful. Better, okay, very, very good. Coolio, all right. So again, this chat is going to be saved at the end of every meeting that you have with your students. So this is a great way to not only kind of assess where the kids are emotionally and what they are learning, but this is actually a learning fragment that you can take with you. So if you actually want to ask a question that you could maybe use to evaluate understanding, you'll have a copy of it saved forever. And it also will put a lot more kind of accountability into the students to know that everything is going to be saved. And of course, you can share content. So just like I'm dropping in this link right here, you're welcome to share any content that you want through the chat. In the webinar, I'm not allowed to upload files with you, okay? So in the webinar format, I cannot directly send you files, but in the meeting format, which is what teachers are using to meet with kids, you can share files and share content that way. Can we easily access the chat without rewatching the recording? Glenda asked, yeah. When you save the chat or when the chat is automatically saved and you want to go withdraw it, you can say, I want to look at the video or I want the audio or I just want the text file of the chat. So if you want, you can just take that text file with you and have it saved as well. Dina says she's not seeing a link here. Maybe it's going to all panelists. I don't see Kate or Glenda's chats. Well, here, I will send it to you directly, Bina. Here you go. There we go. So now I've just been able to send it directly to Bina as well. Okay. All right, so the chat is super powerful, and I think we're starting to learn that as we explore around with it. And I want you to try and incorporate it in as much as you can as a learning artifact in your teaching. All right. This is a big one here. Let's open up the chat again just so I can see it as we're going. Chunking your lesson. So it's really important that when we're doing online learning, we don't do what I'm doing right now, which is just talking directly for too long. We want to give students bite-sized pieces of information that they interact with, that they can digest and that they can come back and reflect on. So we're going to consider the idea of chunking for this. And so although we generally have about an hour of time with these students, I would recommend that you break your lesson down into about 5-minute chunks of information. So this could be like a 5 minutes that you spend on one slide, or 5 minutes that you spend on one video. But by breaking down a long kind of lesson like this, you're going to have a lot more retention. A great way to do this is to switch your text and your tabs. So like I'm just going to enter or exit out of full screen mode right here. And a great way to do chunking is to say, okay, for the next 5 minutes, we're going to be so 5 minutes, we're going to be discussing this particular video or this particular concept. Oh, connection is unstable. Can everyone hear me again? I got the notification that I was fading out. Oh. Very choppy. Yeah, so we were talking about this at the start of the webinar. Zoom is very much kind of bandwidth dependent, and there's peak times of the day when you might find it hard to get into a Zoom meeting, or you might experience more connection issues. Let's have a look here. Bina, I believe, is asking a question. Bina, is there something you want to ask right now? Steven's looking at the 80s videos. All right, let's finish this part on chunking. So short little sections would be a great way to break down your lesson and give the kids an activity to do in between those chunks. So small piece of content goes out to them. They get to do a small little activity, maybe answer one question, and then you come back and then take on the second chunk. Less is more, and visual is generally better. So when you're sharing content with your kids, especially if you're doing it the way I'm doing with like a Google slide layout, less text is always more effective. And anytime you can show like more visuals or more diagrams to kind of highlight the points, it's going to be better than long sections of text. And finally, for chunking, they really recommend you look at bulleted information and listed information because it really helps our brain kind of organize and absorb information. Now, let's get physical. Can I see everyone who's feeling a little bit tired right now, or who's feeling like maybe they've been in their chair too long? Can I just get a show of hands, maybe in, raising your hands. Let's have everyone raise their hands who's feeling like they're a little bit tired right now. So we got Carla, Sean, Rocio, Kate is feeling a little bit tired. Yeah. These online courses are going to be, they're going to be tough physically because it's going to be a lot of computer time. And I think even on day 2, we're starting to feel that pretty good. So one thing I would highly encourage every teacher to do is to get your kids up and out of their seats. And anytime that you can connect the learning at home to the learning you're doing in the classroom would be really good. So just hypothetically, let's imagine that we are doing like a middle school math lesson for maybe grade 6 or 7. We want to study area. This is what I would like you to do right now. I would like you to get up out of your seat. Okay, so get up and stand up with me, just like this. And I want you to walk like this. So heel to toe, heel to toe, heel to toe. And I would like everyone to go around their table, and I want you to tell me how many steps does it take to get around your table. All right, so I want everyone up, heel to toe, walking around your workspace, and tell me what is the diameter in feet of your workspace. I'm gonna guess that the average is around 20. Let's see what we get. Share it in the chat when you're done. I'm gonna go do mine right now too. I'll be right back. $18, $19, $20, $21, $22, $23. Whoa, Glenda, big table. Dog in the way. Dog hazard. Yeah, Bina has a really good comment in the chat. She says there's an extension called Move It. Let's see if I can't really quickly find this here. Move extension. We'll share this out with the group as well, Bina. Actually, Bina, can I get you to drop that into the chat, please? So I think this little activity, I mean, this was just a really simple, basic one, but the idea of trying to connect the learning to some physical activity in the house and to try and build it into every lesson if possible. Even if it's just a small little opportunity to get the kids out of the seat, because physically it's going to be very, very tough for them, you know, to be doing so much computer time over the next possible 2 weeks. All right. Final little bit right now. So Bina just shared with all panelists, she just shared the extension. This is called Move It. It's a Chrome extension that I believe it's 7 minutes, or you can change it to be whatever time you want, will suggest a really good physical activity. So every 7 minutes, it would be say, get up and do 20 jumping jacks, or get up and do 12 squats, or whatever it may be. And it'll just be that reminder for you to get up out of your chair and get moving a little bit. Okay, so I'm gonna stop sharing my screen at this point, and we're in just kind of the Q&A mode right now. And I'm going to lower everyone's hand, and if you want to ask a question, I'm going to turn on your microphone, and let's actually hear some of the questions that you have, or maybe if you just have an idea you want to share about running an effective environment. All right. So my lower hand button doesn't seem to be working too good. Let's see here. Lower all hands. There we go. All right, so is there anyone who, would like to raise their hand and either ask a question or share something that you've learned about running an effective e-learning environment? Phone's ringing. All right, Sean Schaller, hand goes up. So we are going to promote him to panelist. And Sean, I'm going to unmute you. You want to share some ideas with us, bud?
Okay, you can hear me now?
I can, yeah.
Great. So in this particular setup for Zoom, it's the webinar. So I was an attendee, not a panelist. So I was just hoping that you could share that link with all the different Zoom resources. I think maybe you shared it in the chat as a link, but I was unable to see it as an attendee.
Yeah, I will. Let me see. On the tips and tricks, let's see, is webinar in here? I don't think it's in one of the great tools, but I will send out, I'll send out a link right now to the official Zoom webinar versus meeting page. So you get to know the difference between the two tools. They can be, webinars could be really powerful, especially if you want to do more of like kind of that direct instruction type lesson. So I will just drop this in right here to all the panelists. And this is a little link that will talk about the differences between meetings and webinars. But you can see that a webinar is more kind of teacher-driven content delivery, and whereas the attendees are more listening. But do you have any tips you want to share with us, Sean?
Well, I think I'm learning as we go right now, as I imagine everybody else is. But yeah, I think they're really good strategies just to check in, like you said, and use the chat. The kids are really responding to that. And, you know, it is very easy, I think, to kind of get lost in your instruction. And it's important to build in that wait time, like you said. And I've just been trying to, I basically have a Google slideshow, and every slide has the tasks for each day for these 2 weeks. And it has all the links built into it. And it seems like it helps the students, the middle school students, find the information that they need to. And so right now I'm kind of experimenting with, like you said, chunking it, building in instruction versus practice, and then reconnecting with the class so they can ask questions. But it's kind of trial and error so far on day 2, you know?
Excellent. And one of the other things that I really recommend that kind of follows up on that is the idea of establishing like a firm routine in your class. So the kids know, where do they go to get their materials at the start of class? Where do they go to submit work? And you try and keep it as simple as possible for them at this time. And every class kind of following that similar routine of where is the work, where do I need to hand things in, and where should I be? And allowing that structure to kind of build in time is going to make it way easier for them as learners. All right, thanks, Sean. I'm going to ask Bina. I'm going to say allowed to talk. Bina, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly well. Is there an e-learning tool or an e-learning suggestion that you have to share for us about running an effective environment, or do you have a question?
No, I have two tools to share based on some classes that I popped into today. The first one was I observed a highly effective classroom doing push-outs to groups. So after the teacher was done with the instruction whole group-wise, she pushed out to groups. I haven't tried doing it yet on Zoom, but it was awesome.
And sorry, push out is a separate tool?
I don't know. She used the phrase, I'm about to push out to groups. And then you slowly saw kids leave. And the kids that were remaining, she's like, okay, I'm putting you with group one. And then their picture disappeared. And she said, Miss Shaw, do you want me to put you with a group? I was like, no, I don't want to distract. And so then I left, but it was really awesome because then she was able to control and then the kids were able to do group work as well. And then she popped into their groups.
Yeah, Jimena called it. They're called, the technical term for it in Zoom is breakout sessions.
Ah, okay.
So either they could be arranged beforehand and they're just kind of separate little groups that you can put kids into, and then you as a teacher, like you said, can jump around into it. You know, we're going to be offering training on breakout sessions coming up next week. So this week we want to focus on just kind of the starter line, the basic toolkit that's available to you in Zoom, and then we're going to be giving training on breakout sessions. But everyone that I've talked to loves them, and they're a very powerful tool.
Awesome. My second one was, you know, the adaptive school strategies of like checking for understanding, like even the thumbs up, which a lot of teachers and just people do in general when they have a group. I saw teachers doing that using the reactions tool, and it was awesome because they could quickly scan for checking for understanding before they moved on.
Yeah. The reactions tool is really good. It's really, really powerful as well. I don't think we actually have it in the webinar right now. So I don't see it on my end that I can get thumbs up or claps from my participants. That might be just in meetings only at this moment. We'll look into that and see if we can't turn that on for webinars as well. But it's really, really powerful. And like we said, it's a way when the kid's mic is muted to still know that they have something that they want to share or that they want to add. So it's a really great tool for that kind of management piece, that you can get feedback from the class, or you can know that there's a question that you need to speak to without having to turn on everyone's mic again. All right. Well, that is going to be it for today. It's 3 o'clock. I think we've had a long day for all of us. If you have any other questions, you can go ahead and reach out to me through email or through Google Hangouts or WhatsApp or whatever way we want to. We are going to be doing these webinars every Tuesday. I'm going to be offering them for middle school, high school, and every Thursday, my colleague Carla Pupo is offering them for elementary. So very, very good resource for you to join in on. And if there's anything specifically you want to see in a webinar, you can let me know and we will speak to that specific topic. And other than that, class dismissed, my friends. You've earned your afternoon here. Glenda, I will send you a copy, and thanks so much, everyone.